Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, April 11th, 2017. I'm Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change, joined as always on Tuesdays by Duane Long. We are not going to talk weather today, only to tell you that if you live in Ohio, this is why people have opioid addictions. Anyway, things that make people feel better in Ohio. Football. We all know this. Things that make people feel great. The spring game. Hope springs eternal. Duane, how excited are you for Saturday's rendition of the spring game?
I'm tired of watching replays of old games. I'm ready to see something new, even if it's just a practice, and that's basically what the spring game is. We call it a game, but it is just the last practice of spring. It's one coaches really would rather not do. Full contact and try to show off in front of the fans, and kids get all geeked up, especially those that had to sit last year and didn't get the opportunity to play. They really want to show out. So, as we saw in the Mississippi State spring game with that terrible hit teammate on teammate, things get a little out of hand sometimes in the spring game, and coaches are just, let me get out of this without anybody getting hurt. So, yeah, I'm geeked about it. The coaches probably would cancel it if they could.
You stay classy there, Starkville. There's no question this is for the fans. If the weather is good, Ohio State will pack the stadium like they will for a regular season game. I think that helps recruiting and the overall gestalt of the program, no question. The weather forecast right now is touch and go. It's only warm out. I'm not sure how much we'll be able to avoid the rain. Still, it's a great opportunity for $5 to get to Ohio Stadium at 12:30 and get a chance to watch the guys get after it. Duane, the guys who always star in this, we've discussed before the show here, who's going to be the Torian Washington of the spring game. There's always a couple guys who bubble up. People may remember Michael Thomas playing great in the spring game and then redshirting. So you got to take everything we see with a grain of salt. But as you look at the group, who do you expect that after the spring game that the Bucknutters will be even more in love with?
Well, I think you're going to see a couple of guys. I think Joey Bosa has really had a great spring, but he's not really a sleeper kind of guy. I got a couple in mind that I think fans are going to say, okay, this guy's going to help us. I would say Deshaun Cornell has had a really outstanding spring. He got healthy. That was huge. People don't realize, fans don't realize, these players are constantly pushing to get back on the field, and they never fully heal. When they can play and when they should play, two different things. Cornell is one of those guys, he should not have been out there at all. The coaches don't want to take the opportunity for these kids to play, and if the doctor says they're healthy enough, like I said, being healthy enough and really being ready to play are two different things. Deshaun Cornell he's been one of the real standouts in spring. On the offensive side of the ball, Johnny Dixon. I know I've talked about this kid a lot. I loved him coming out of high school. I thought he was going to have a great impact. When he didn't, I wondered, and then we find out he's got these knees that are just, 18-year-old kid whose knees are shot. Well, he's finally had a period of health. And he's really impressed. He's moved up the depth chart. He's a kid that can really help this football team. He's Santonio Holmes with better speed when he's fully healthy. We need a guy who's going to catch everything you throw to him and make something happen after the play, and he's the guy. Also, Terry McLaurin has had a really strong spring. Those two guys at the receiver spots are going to really help us out. I want to say Ben Victor, but we've been expecting that out of Ben Victor. He's really impressed this spring.
Johnny Dixon would break the record for most people saying he's done at Ohio State over a 3-year stretch. For him to come back and make it, that would be a very impressive success story. And like you said, the talent has always been there. That's never been the question with him. So those are the guys we're going to love Where do you see Ohio State Buckeye fans having concerns coming out of the spring game?
Well, I think they're going to be upset with the offensive line. You got divided units. Guys aren't used to playing together. You got walk-ons in there. And I just don't think that they're going to stand out, especially when you look at the defensive line. I think you're going to see the offensive line. You're going to say, what in the world's going on over there? The best offensive lines are those that have played together the longest. So you're going to run the ones and twos and whoever all spring, and then all of a sudden for this game, you're going to have thrown together offensive lines. And, with the defensive line we have 2-3 deep, it's going to be a struggle. So just be ready for the offensive line to get smacked around a little bit.
We sat here and said that the Ohio State second defensive line could start for virtually any team in the Big Ten. We have not said that about the Ohio State second offensive line. So, they're being led to slaughter is a little bit much, but we are going to have, there'll be 3 or 4 edge rushers that we will see in this game, and we will think, good gracious. And that's before Chase Young even gets to town, but I digress. All right, your sleepers. Who are some guys that people don't think of right now that you think after the spring game could maybe catch some eyes?
Right off the top of the list, the one thing that just leaps out at me is Rashad Berry. Rashad Berry's had a spring to remember. He is, there was something on the board about Jonathan Cooper just not stepping up, but that's really, from what I've been told, it's not about Cooper. It's about Rashad Berry just really coming on, figuring out what's going on the defensive end. He was always a super athlete. He's going to help us this fall. That's one name that jumps out at me coming off what I've heard about spring practice, and also Tuff Borland. He's the name that keeps coming up. That he's been moved outside, and he's found a place there. I was not a big fan of his coming out of high school. His film was okay. I didn't know why they were that interested in him. Well, he's finally found his place. That's another name to keep in mind to look at in the spring game.
We'll finish with this. All eyes are going to be on those in jerseys, some of which you're not allowed to tackle. Talk about what you expect out of the quarterbacks and what you think the vibe will be headed into next week.
Well, I think we go back to the offensive line. If the offensive line gives them time, I think the one thing that they want to show is we're going to throw the ball down the field. You get less contact in the passing game, and that's coaches something they want to do in a spring game is keep the contact down, and just show that we do have that. We found it again. I think we always had it. I will always go back to the coaching staff when an offensive juggernaut goes into riding around with 3 wheels like it did in 2015 and 2016. And the one thing you can look to is Herman left, and they brought in a couple of guys who were not competent. I think that we've got the right guy in there. I think we're going to fix what was broken, and I think the fans are going to like what they're going to see. Young receivers, especially at split end, the big guys that make the Julio Jones plays and A.J. Green plays. I think we got some guys that can do that kind of stuff right now. So we'll see that. We'll see it on display Saturday.
As I said, hope springs eternal. We hope the weather is great. I, too, hope personally that the MVP of the game is Kevin Wilson. I think nothing could be better for Ohio State than the idea of an explosive down-the-field offense returning like it did in 2014. We appreciate Duane stopping by. Again, we will have coverage leading up to the spring game all week, and then we will have so many people there, we might have to put on black jerseys. All right? Have a good one, Bucknutters.